just wanted to take a minute and make a welcome video to kind of tell you what's going on here, who I am, and what you can expect. So I wanted to open with a story that is of recent actually. I have a almost 9-month-old baby, and he's our second child, and so my husband and I are from Arkansas. We moved from Arkansas to Kansas City after my husband graduated college. Um, I'm an older woman, so I was already done with college, and we moved to Kansas City for seminary. We came to the seminary. I worked here off and on, and he works at the seminary now, but he's graduated with an MDiv. And so during his last semester of seminary, we kind of had some dreams about what life would look like. Like, God, okay, we have expectations. We came here like we think you told us to. We've done the things, we've learned, we've been faithful to you as far as we know how. And so, God, you have kind of some things that you need to provide us now, like financial stability, a home, a job, maybe even like a little bit of people thinking we're awesome. Like, if you could throw that in there, that would be great. And one of the parts of the equation that we wanted and want is a big family. So we became pregnant with our second child, and we had one little girl. Found out that this child was a little boy, and we were, well, I was scared, but excited to have a son. And so he was due on actually November 22nd, and we anticipated that, of course. We were prepared. We came to the time, November 22nd, and I was so ill. I had like double ear infection, sinus infection, and I found myself in a doctor's office getting a prescription to try to get rid of this infection so that my body would have the capacity to go into labor. And so we got the prescription, days went by, I started feeling better, and then more days went by, and more days went by. Eventually we were 10 days past his due date, and a lot of people think we're real crazy for that, but I just don't like, me personally, it's fine for anyone else who wants to use it, but I don't like drugs. I don't, an epidural is scary to me, like really scary to not be able to feel my limbs. I would much rather feel a child being birthed. I know, it's weird, I don't get it myself, but that's just how I am, weird. So we just wanted to avoid medical intervention if we could, and eventually got to the point, obviously, where we couldn't anymore. The fluid, he'd been there for so long, the fluid was just getting lower and lower, and we knew that we needed to do what was best for him and get him out of there. So we went to the hospital for induction. It was a slow induction. It took about 48 hours from the time we got there to the end for him to be born. So it felt like we were at the hospital forever because we were there for 48 hours before he was born, and we were there for 2 or 3 days after, and it was just a really crazy time. Didn't meet my expectations for what that would be like. And then when we came home, it was hard, but we can do this. He's a baby. And so we actually, about 8 days after we went home, or after we came home, my mom actually had been here, and she went home as well. And the night that she went home, we were hanging out, and his sister had kind of a stomach virus. She, had a little vomiting and other gross things, and so we were sitting eating dinner, and he just like vomited, like projectile, like he'd never done that before, and we were like, well, that was pretty weird. So we cleaned it up, and then it happened again, and we're like, okay, that's probably not good because he's 8 days old. And so then we checked his temperature. He had a little fever, so we called the nurses line, and they said, well, we want him to be seen by a doctor as soon as possible, because things can happen quickly with babies, and it's just unpredictable. So we took him to urgent care, Children's Mercy here in Kansas City, and they informed us that any baby under 28 days is automatically admitted to the hospital. So we were admitted, and man, it was a crazy, again, more crazy times that we had with him there in that hospital room. Sticking him with a needle, getting IV, and then newborn baby is horrifying. It's difficult. You have to use an ultrasound machine to find the little bitty veins, and even then it's difficult. And then he was freaking out, which is understandable. And so, I was there with him. Dad had to come home with sister because she was still sick, and so we were nursing about every hour, and it was just hard. It was hard, and so because of that, when we got home, which we got to come home pretty quickly, and he was fine. It was just a little virus. We were in the hospital for 36 hours. So then, as soon as we got home, we come in, and I was sitting, and I was just freezing. I was so cold and tired and so many things. And I was so mad at my husband because it was cold in our house, and how could he have let it be that cold in our house? And anyway, so as time went on, we quickly realized that I was actually very sick because I had mastitis because of the baby nursing every hour for 36 hours. And it was, something. But once I knew there was medication coming, and then it came, there was pretty immediately relief with that. And so we were thankful. But that's just like a short kind of recap of what happened with this baby. But it was not a good time, like probably one of the hardest times in life. And then really the months following that were hard times. But now he's 9 months old, and we feel like we're kind of walking out of that and away from that season, and just feeling refreshed. And really, ultimately, I had to come to a breaking point where I heard from the Lord, and He has shown me so many things about how He is sufficient for everything in life. He's sufficient to find us a home. He's sufficient to provide. He's sufficient to be a friend. He's sufficient when we're sad. He's sufficient when our expectations are not met. And so I am just trusting Him and moving forward into kind of a new season of ministry. Still, of course, taking care of my sweet babies, but I'm going to be doing videos weekly. The hope is 3 times a week I'll put out a video that is a different subject for the week, and then there'll be 3 videos with just some thoughts in scripture. They'll be 2 or 3 minutes. So that's kind of what that's going to look like. And I love putting out videos. I think that'll be great. But ultimately, what I would love is for women to be sitting in living rooms like this together, discussing the gospel. And when a friend is deep in postpartum depression, I want her friends to notice, and I want them to come together. And so that's the hope. That's my hope. And for me, I would love to be with you. I would love to speak at your event about the hope that you have in the gospel, and just the truth of the gospel and how it applies to you. I hope to reach women from teenagers all the way to the greatest hair. And I'm looking forward to it. If I'm just being real honest, I'm a little nervous, but I'm just trusting God and that He is calling me to this, and I'm ready to go on this journey with you. So I hope that you'll join me.